everybody, welcome back to Roosters on Olentangy River Road in beautiful Columbus, Ohio. It's Lettermen Live. I am Austin Ward, and we got some of the old original crew back with us finally, breaking out of quarantine, back at Roosters. Jake Stoneburner, Zach Boren.
We're back.
You were fully hosting this show almost.
I know.
At one point before
my
we got
mom
shut
hasn't
down.
let me out of the house. Now I'm back.
So now we got to get it back. We got to shake the rust off. Get you back out here. Spencer Holbrook down there on the end. It's tight ends week at Lettermen Row, and that's further incentive to get Stoney out here so he can again make his plea to throw that position the ball. But we had to get two of the most versatile Buckeyes I know out here because I think there'd be a role for both of you guys in this Ryan Day offense, right?
Oh,
for
Zach
sure,
at middle line.
Yeah, for sure, Stoney. Yeah.
No, we would be out there. I think if we had Zach Boren at fullback again, power offense would come back full circle.
It's interesting to watch that offense anymore because some of this two tight end stuff, they're shifting the tight end back into the backfield. I think Zach Boren could have. They look like a fullback. They just don't want to say it.
No doubt. Stoney and I in the YY, I mean, it used to be
Jeff
like that.
Hireman, who?
Listen, we used to practice it all the time and practice and spring ball and fall camp, and then season comes around. It's just game plans don't work out that way,
That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes for us utility guys.
Hey,
no doubt.
You guys got your hands on the ball. You got into the end zone down there. Stoney maybe more than Zach, but...
Well, it's been funny, right? We're bringing this up, and I know, Stoney is maybe arguably the best receiving tight end in Ohio State football history, right? From the versatility where he lined up.
Thanks,
and it's kind of, of course, I got you. But it's kind of funny where, some of these games have been replaying because of, no sports and the whole COVID thing. And so I remember the Ohio State-Penn State game was being shown one night, and I was like, I'm going to turn it on. And within the first, 3 minutes was that long touchdown, like an 80-yard touchdown pass. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's right. Stoney's blazing, man. He's a guy that, and it's funny. So many people talk about, what you do in the offense. What people don't realize is that from an offensive scheme and play standpoint, there is so much that is run in spring ball and fall camp and that people don't know about because it's never shown during a game.
Right.
And I can't tell you how many times they had Stoney at wide receiver or flexing him out during spring ball or fall camp, and Stoney's going off in practice, just crushing these guys, right? And then it gets to the season, hey, where'd that package go? Where's it at, right?
How many times did we run? They had a screen. I scored my junior year against Nebraska.
Yep.
We probably ran that 6 to 10 times throughout my 2 years there. Would score every time. Never would call it.
Yeah.
Finally, they call it. House it.
Yep. Yeah. But it's funny. They have so many different things that they do during practice, and then game time, it's kind of they zero in on what they feel at that point, and there's so many things that people don't see.
I like that you bring that up because the only day of practice that Spencer and I have got to see this year, they did the 1 week in March before it got shut down. Everybody who's watching Lettermen Live at Roosters probably knows that already. But, that first day of practice, man, Jeremy Ruckert probably had 15 catches. Luke Farrell probably had 15 catches. Cade Stover was getting in those 3 reps, and the ball was going to him every time. It was like, all right, I know that the off-season storyline is always the tight ends getting the ball, but on that one day of practice, man, it was like the tight end show.
Oh, Zach, it's funny he remembered that because it brought a lot of memories up to me. It seemed like spring and fall camps were like tight end haven, and then the games would come and.
Was it like a trick? They just
Stoney, do you think that they did that on purpose? They're like, the media's here. We're going to throw to the tight end every time just to get it.
I don't know.
No, because there's so many things, even from a defensive standpoint, that we as an offense would go up against. Right? There were times where I remember in fall camp one time they went to a bare front like the majority of fall camp, and it's like bare front. Where's this coming from? And they're playing with Johnny up and off the ball, and they were running almost like a 3-4 defense. Right? Then we get to the season, it's like the normal 4-3. It's like we didn't show the Bear defense at all. It's like we're going up against that in fall camp. And so, there's so many things that I think coaches want to get on film because it might be one of those things where the wide receivers, they know these plays are going to work, whatever it may be. They might just want to see, hey, how's this going to play out going YY, or how's this going to look with Stoney going out? And so they rep it nonstop to try and get it on film because it kind of is, how's this going to look? How's it going to, to a defense, right? they're constantly going through and diagnosing what our offense is going to look like to someone else in kind of a self-scout standpoint. So I think they try and put as many things on film to see how it looks, knowing that they still got their bread and butter in their back pocket.
It kind of takes me back also to, I remember the Michigan State game when Justin Fields found Luke Farrell 10 seconds after the ball snapped as his third or fourth option. And you could just see that, maybe that happened in practice a couple times, and he knew that once he slid across the left side, Luke Farrell would be there. And you just think about all those reps that goes into it and how often they throw to the tight end in practice. That's where the trust has to be developed. No, Stoney?
Yeah. I mean, you're only going to get trust by making those plays in practice. You just hope they call them in the game so you can earn actual real trust. And that's more developed, I think, just from the coaches seeing, like, all right, we like this play, not necessarily this player, but we like this play here in this position. And at least when I was there, we had quarterbacks that maybe weren't the same that they are today as far as throwing, and we relied a lot more on big old 44 leading up in the hole. Our running backs are still in the running backs in the NFL, and our quarterback was actually a pretty good running back as well with Braxton.
Yeah.
So half the time we'd be like, dude, just take off.
Yeah.
Just make a play.
You bring up this year, Austin, and it's, especially in spring ball, and I remember the tight ends when I was at Ohio State, right? You had Jake Ballard, you had Stoney, you had Jeff, and you had Nick Van Nett, right? And it was like, Ballard was such a blocker, right? He was the great blocker, right? Stoney was the guy that was so good at getting out in space, right? And then you had obviously Jeff, who was another really good blocker. Like that was his bread and butter. And then you had Nick, who was the same way, liked to be out in space and do his thing. And you think of the guys, I think Jeremy Rucker maybe be the outside, but a guy like Luke Farrell, and even Jeremy had some great blocks this year, right? They'd put him in that in-line of scrimmage. I don't know if there's ever been a full group tight end room that's been more complete than they have right now, just because those guys are able to do so many things, right? When we were there, it was kind of guys had their niche, and no offense, Stoney, but Stoney don't want to be the guy on goal line, right? going down in there, and
no offense taken ever on that, please.
Yeah. It's like you think
He's always
about,
been the first to admit that.
It's like you think about that group now in that tight end room. They are so complete because they can all do different things. Granted, we haven't seen Jake Stoneburner do it, but we know how athletic he is. This is a linebacker that's playing tight end, right? So they can line him up at the H. They can line him up at fullback if they need to. It's probably the most complete tight end room that Ohio State's ever had.
And that's why I find it so interesting, because obviously we have this offseason discussion about throwing them the football more, and to play devil's advocate. Like, growing up, my dad is the same as Stoney. Like, tight ends are always open. Like that, he's believed that his whole life. Every time I ask for a question of the day about tight ends, he's like, when are they going to throw the football more? We see that on Twitter all the time. Love you, Dad.
But the best.
But, like, why do they need it? Like, just be devil's advocate here. This is the best offense in the Big Ten, one of the best offenses in the country, and you only have so many touches to go around. It's like, they play 2 tight end sets. They're incredible blockers. I watch them. I know how important they are even when they don't catch the football. But, like, how many more touches would they even need? Like, I don't. That's my question. And I know that's the big frustration for you, but
there's just so many good players on Ohio State. And there's only so many few snaps, and so many few of those are actually passing attempts, that unless the group around is lesser, there's not enough balls, in my opinion, for the tight ends to have a 30 to 50 catch season.
Right.
We were saying that yesterday about Kellen Winslow. You just don't see tight ends in college football dominate like we saw, like Kellen Winslow. Really, that's like the last guy I can really think of.
But you look at the Kittles and these guys, Travis Kelce. It's not like that's pretty rare still, even to the NFL, to really take over games like that from that position.
It really is. And those guys, at least at Ohio State, the 2 guys they have there are those type of NFL.
Yep. Maybe
not game-changing like a Travis Kelce, but still can play with their hand in the dirt and split out. It's just interesting to see, not necessarily interesting, but with the amount of players and playmakers, you're right. How do we need to throw it to tight end? Everyone wants it, but do we need to?
Right.
We've had a pretty good few decades here without throwing it to the tight end. Some of those, like Stanford, Notre Dame, Iowa, they're known for having their tight ends, but they play 3 tight ends at a time. Ohio State's never done that. So I don't know if we ever will. Maybe one might be an outlier who does have a 50, 60 catch season, but maybe as a group you could have that for sure.
Right.
Coming from a defensive standpoint, in the time that I was at linebacker, right, I think the tight end position it's your biggest weapon. As a offense, if you can utilize the tight end, it's your biggest weapon. Because as a linebacker, you're sitting there, especially as a Mike, and you're getting the defense set up, right? When a team comes out in 4 wide, guess what? It's either inside, like read option, inside zone, or they're passing the ball, right? It's pretty easy once you pick up on these things, right? When you have a tight end in the game, it just creates a whole different dynamic, right? You don't know if it's run, if it's pass. Normally, a lot of times, depending on the offense, right, anywhere between 60 to 40% run or pass, whatever it might be. Then you got to start thinking about the sticks. Okay, it's less than 4 yards. Tight ends in the game, okay, maybe I'm sitting run, right? And then you start thinking as well, when you've got 4 wide, people see that. There's cards that are held up. Why? People may ask a question, the people who don't really know, why are people holding up cards on the sideline? It's to tell you personnel, right? So guess what, if 4 wide receivers are on the field and they know that in the huddle, the defensive staff is not going to call a defense where 5 linebackers are in the game, right? They're going to get the dime defense where there's a bunch of DBs, right? Well, when you bring in a tight end, you can't go to that nickel dime package all the time. You have to play with your linebackers knowing like, hey, this could be a running down situation. They got to be able to fill the gaps. We got to be sound. Well, guess what? If you've got that tight end who is athletic, who can get out, it's a mismatch because you are putting them against guys like me.
Zach
right?
Boren has to guard me.
Right. I mean, the team that in my mind does it the best, Penn State's been really good at it recently with some of their tight ends, but the team that is so successful is Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
When's the last time you saw Wisconsin have a unbelievable wide receiver? I mean, it just doesn't happen, right? Because you've got a DB lined up on them. The reason why they're so good is because when you play Wisconsin, you are forced to almost play a 4-4 as a defense, and you've got a linebacker matched up on those 3 tight ends. And it's so hard just from a height standpoint, from an athletic standpoint, from a length standpoint. You don't have a tight end playing linebacker, right? So it's completely different body types. It's completely different makeup. And so if you can utilize that, it's your biggest weapon,
I think that's interesting that you bring that up, Zach, because Wisconsin does that and Iowa does that, and we saw Ohio State have problems defending that a couple years ago. It's because, that old school, you don't see many offenses built that way anymore. And Ohio State has a lot of success with the tight ends, but they're not ever going to use them in that way. As Stoney said, you're not going to see, Hausman in there as that third. They're not going to run 3 tight ends out there, Cade Stover, whoever. But, they're more in tune of using Ruckert sort of the way Stoney issued it, where, okay, if you're going to try and match up with him, we can also move out in the slot. Then what are you going to do there? Or that H-back role or whatever. That's sort of Ohio State's way. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's interesting to watch how those other programs, like the reason they get 50 or 60 catches is also because they don't have really dynamic skill guys.
Right.
No doubt. Like, which one are you going to pick?
No doubt.
But when Ohio State throws to the tight end, it's always a lot of times it's a game-changing play. If you look at what they did in the Big Ten title game, they threw to Luke Farrell. It was a fake punt, but it went to a tight end. It didn't go to that H-back. You look at the Michigan play where Luke Farrell catches a pass. We watched that in Buckeye Q.
What about Jeremy Ruckert, right? He started the one-handed catch, right? That started the comeback.
Luke Farrell, I referenced it earlier against Michigan State. It was 10-7 when that happened. It's 17-7 after he catches a touchdown pass. So they don't get the credit they deserve. They don't get the ball as much as Stoney would love them to. But when they do, it's most of the time it's a game-changing play, or it's extending the drive, and then they score 1 or 2 plays later.
When you projected catches for this year, Spencer, how many did you have for the tight ends?
I think it was like 35 or 40 total. Maybe it was 50 total, but it was a lot. Because I think Justin Fields is going to throw the ball more because he doesn't have J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, Trey Sermon can be good. But I think when you have the weapons you have at tight end and the uncertainty you have at running back, I think you can use the tight ends a little more in the pass game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. You look in front of you, and I think any 4 of us could play running back this year with that offensive line in front, right? It'd be a 1,000-yard rusher.
I'm going to get a couple of yards.
I mean, come on, right? So
how many yards you averaging, Zach?
That offense, 4.
We've got Zach thinking about how he fits in this offense now.
All we need is 3. Zach's getting at least 3.
4. And so, listen, being in Coach Day's spot and that offensive staff, it's like, how could you not just be salivating at what you have at your disposal with the offensive line? It doesn't matter who you plug in at running back. You've got, in my mind, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in NCAA and Justin Fields, right? And then you even look at the tight ends that we've been discussing, but look at the wide receivers. I mean, my goodness. Yeah. You got some of those young guys. You still got Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, which might be the best 1-2 punch in college football going into this year, right? Yep. And then you sprinkle in some of those younger guys, some of those older guys who haven't really gotten opportunities. I mean, They are dangerous.
And I think that's part of the reason why I chose like 40 catches when I did the projection, is because the young wide receivers are super talented. Yep. Nobody's going to dispute that. But I think early in the season, you might see Jeremy Ruckert line up as a third wide receiver, or Luke Farrell line up with Jeremy Ruckert at tight ends, and let the young wide receivers get some experience and slow the game down for them before they go out there and go 4 wide every
Their
time.
12 package could be pretty lethal with their O-line, the 2 tight ends, and their 2 stud receivers out there. That's where it gets kind of dangerous, because as Zach was saying, how do you play that? Because you have regular linebackers in there guarding a Jeremy Ruckert who can run any route that most receivers can run, but they're Zach Boren size. Nothing against Zach, but
no.
Jeremy 6'5", going against 5'10", that's just matchup any
just
day.
Throw it up there.
No doubt. Hey, listen, if I'm lining up against Jeremy, that's when I used to look over at Ryan Shazier and yell, right, help, right? Hey, trust me, I'd be asking for my help, because I knew if I had Ryan to my inside helping me, I was like, all right, good, I can take his outside, I could cheat it. Oh, it's impossible, right? But either having me lined up against Jeremy Ruckert, or if you come out in more of a 4 wide set, even just Jeremy on his own, if they want to slide him out, you put up Sean Wade against him, right? Who he was the nickel this past year. I'd rather have Sean Wade against Jeremy Ruckert than me any day of the week, right? So
now we're running the ball.
No, I know. So, but that's what Jake's talking about, right? That that 12 personnel having 2 tight ends where they can have their hands in the ground, they can split them out. As a defense, you cannot. You're going to have a mismatch somewhere.
It even makes it harder when you do both in the same play. You got to sat down and then you spread them outside. Right before the snap.
And Stoney, I remember early in this, I can't remember if it was after week 1 or week 2, Ruckert had the 2 touchdowns, but I think they both came in YY, and we're like, well, this is the new element here, because they had combination routes, and they got, because you're like, you're going to get a linebacker on one of those guys most of the time, but then they're running combination routes and decoys, and these guys have no idea what to do in coverage against them.
Once I got in the NFL, when they really do a lot of 2 tight end sets and some of the route trees you can run from those. After Dave was doing that, you're like, all right, he gets it. He gets the dangers of being able to have that YY set and have them run a route tree off that. I don't think we even sniffed that when we played.
I'll tell you who did that, and I went up against it as a linebacker, and the team they're known for it was Wisconsin. They go YY, and it's not even really a crossing route from the wing position. It's like a cross country, right? We called it cross country because they're elevating, right? So they're crossing the field, but they're getting deeper, and they're almost going to the back third of the opposite side of the defense, right? From where they're opposite side of the formation, and it's impossible to cover because you've got a linebacker who's a lot of times zone turning with the guy, and at some point he's got to get him off, right? But then you've also got the wide receiver on the outside normally running a post, getting the attention of the safety, and you've got that tight end coming back. It's impossible to stop, and you saw it last year, right, in the YY. And when coaches start understanding that and what you can do out of that YY set against playing with linebackers and safeties' eyes, it's over.
Yeah, Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson aren't exactly 2 coaches that want to leave stones unturned if they know it works. All right, got these guys going on tight ends. We're going to cool them down for a little bit, take a quick break, maybe eat some food. We'll be right back here on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart, and we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back to Roosters. I am Austin Ward, joined by the same crew. Didn't even change it up at all. Stoney's digging in here to the food. Help yourself. Always great to be here for Lettermen Live on Mondays, and especially during tight end week. So we dove into all of that, guys. I asked this question a couple weeks ago, and I think people were really, interested in this because you guys know the roster. You know what areas need to be strengthened. I don't see a lot of weaknesses on this roster, but if you are, heading into this extra, training camp, voluntary workouts, whatever they're going to do in the end of July here, what unit has your most attention? Which one has to make the most strides before September and whenever this starts?
I think running back.
Okay.
Football starts with the running the ball. We got a great quarterback, but I think a lot of his greatness last year was because we had an amazing running back. And I think from where Dobbins is to anyone else we have is a pretty steep fall off, in my opinion. So I think just seeing if we can pick up that slack. I think everywhere else on the football field is pretty well off. I mean, obviously Chase Young gone. How do you replace that? But they have some pretty good guys coming up. So it's more about seeing their actual on the field and their talent. But to me, it's the running back. I need someone to step up the way. I mean, Master Teague's pretty nice, but it's a big drop off to me from where we were last year. To me, that's probably the one place I would like to see the best.
It's crazy to think where Dobbins could have put that. If you got to play in some second halves last year.
It's unbelievable, right?
I mean, he's so good. And the team he's on now with the Ravens.
He's going to be unbelievable. I've got two positions. The running back one, I'm not going to touch on it as much as Jake because he just did, but I already said it earlier. You are running behind, in my mind, the best offensive line in college football, right? So, the addition of Trey Sermon's going to be huge. Everyone's saying that, his knee is fully recovered. So, if you've got a 1-2 punch of Trey Sermon and Master Teague, and you throw in, I love Marcus Crowley, what he can bring, right, before he got injured last year. So, you bring some of those guys in. I mean, there's going to be success there, right? And Coach Alford is a great coach. But in my mind, I think the biggest spotlight I have is just one position. It's free safety, right? You're replacing a guy like Jordan Fuller, who is so smart, and the middle linebacker and the free safety have to be on the same page at all times, right? Those are the two guys that make the defense whole. And you obviously have a really strong linebacking core, but who's going to fill that free safety spot? And you need some experience back there. They obviously try throwing stuff at you, and we've seen offenses, they try and play with your eyes, right? And if you're a young guy and you don't have much experience, it's easy to get fooled with certain things. And who's going to fill that role, right? And then how are they going to respond by being a leader and making sure that everyone's in the right position?
I've got the defensive tackle spot because I know that Tommy Togiak can stuff the run. I know that there's some massive guys in there, so I don't think they're going to have a tough time stopping the run whatsoever. But can Teron Vincent take that step from his injury last year and turn it into being a dominant 3-tech that Larry Johnson needs in that defense? Can Tyler Friday maybe transform into a 3 technique like Berm has projected him to from his recruiting days? So I think it's a 3-tech spot because Larry Johnson relies on that. Chase Young even relied on it some. Getting pressure from the inside, Deshaun Cornell flushing him outside the pocket. Chase Young cleans it up. So, those defensive ends rely on that 3-tech spot. I think it's going to be key for Ohio State to figure out who exactly fits there, and then it's up to Teron Vincent or a guy like that to just dominate from that spot.
Well, that whole area inside defensive tackle, nose, and 3. I mean, Devon Hamilton was so freaking good last year.
So underrated.
And I even on draft day, he was still being underrated. I don't really know why, because
just not a sexy position. He wasn't a sexy. I don't want to say sexy, but not a flashy bit. But he did everything right and was phenomenal at it.
I feel like you could put on the tape of any game, and he was dominating last year. And if you want to think that the sacks are fluky or they shouldn't matter from that position, that's fine. But he had 6 of them from nose.
Yeah.
And
that's pretty nothing to slouch
If Larry Johnson is not taking you off the field in pass rush situations, there's probably a pretty good reason for that.
Right.
So you got to have somebody step up and fill that void.
It was his Pickerington upbringing, man. We
pick strong.
No doubt.
I think Devon, it was a motor thing. He never stopped. And so that's why that defensive tackle spot is so important, because you can be dominant 3 out of the 4 plays, but on the 4th play, if something happens on the interior, somebody's scoring a touchdown. So Devon just never stopped. And so there was never anywhere for anybody to go. Even if the outside was getting pressure, you couldn't step up because Devon was so relentless. That's what they need from those guys, Haskell Garrett, even like a guy like Jerron Cage, those kind of guys that have not been talked about very much. They've got to be able to step up, because I'm not sure if anybody can match the motor that Devon has.
And to narrow that down too, to like the under the radar guys that could really determine if this team wins a national championship or not. And to Zach's point, I mean, Josh Proctor, I've been talking about him for 2 years, and this has got to be the time. Like, Jordan Fuller's not back there. Sean Wade's not going to be helping in the slot if he's that primary corner, so there's going to be inexperience out there with probably Cam Brown and Seven Banks. You're going to need somebody to be that leader of the back line. You've talked about the communication part, Zach, a number of times on Buck IQ. Like, this has got to be it for Josh Proctor. You're recruited out of the first, signee out of Oklahoma for a reason. We've talked about you as an NFL player.
Yep.
Well, you got to be it now. There's no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. No, I thought you were going.
You just nailed it, right?
Yeah, you did. I mean, we've talked about this multiple times, right? He's got to step up. This is his time to shine, right? He's a highly recruited kid. He's a kid, like you said, first one out of Oklahoma. It's time to buy in, right? It's something where he played some in the Clemson game and got his feet wet. Sometimes it wasn't the prettiest thing, right? But it's a guy who throughout the year you saw the trust start to be there, and now it's on him, right? Literally, he's on the pedestal. Is he going to keep on climbing and take it, or is he going to jump off of it and let someone else get on? And this is the most important year for him if he has any NFL dreams. If Ohio State wants to win the national championship year, it might be on his shoulders or whoever's chasing him to get that position. Yeah. But I could not agree with you more. This is a kid who, since he started as a freshman, had a lot of hype behind him, came out, was killing it in fall ball. I think led the team in interceptions his first fall, right, as a true freshman. And he's got to show up come game days. Yeah. You don't get paid from the practice field.
No.
You get paid from the game field, and so it's time to show up.
Squad.
Yeah, that's true, but
it doesn't work here.
No, it doesn't work here.
Not until you get to that next level. No. At least not yet. Until guys can sign their name, image, and likeness, which I'm sure has you guys a little bit jealous that you're about 8 years too late.
So I was talking to Jake Ballard about it, and he was like, "Yeah, that'd be cool 12 years ago." And I was like, "Damn." It wasn't like we just graduated last year.
It's been a while.
We just,
to me, that sounds like yesterday. I mean, I remember covering the Penn State touchdown.
Yeah. That's where I'm like, man, I feel like I missed out the boat on that. I think of the guys who just graduated last year or the year before. Yeah. The amount of money that could bring to Ohio State football players is, it's almost.
Well, and that's what I think is great for them. Like the week after your touchdown at Penn State, there were great pictures of it, and everybody's behind you because you just ran away from the Nittany Lions there. You're going to go sign, pictures of that the next week and charge for it. Zach's, we know we've talked about his picture.
I would have loved like a Bud Light or Coors Light sponsor. That would have been great.
I think they'll probably draw the line. I haven't seen the exact legislation, but I'm not sure that the college kids are going to get one of those.
Yeah. That would have been phenomenal.
I mean, just think about
signing your name on a picture and not, being able to cash in on that because you guys do that as soon as you're done.
Right.
That's to me, I think that shouldn't have never been a rule. Why could I not go make money off my own picture? You're using it, the university's using it to make money. Why can't I? Especially as a 20-year-old, I don't know if I'm going to make it the NFL. I don't know what my life's going to look like when I'm 30 and 40. How can I not benefit from me being successful now? So now that they're doing that, I think Ohio State's going to have a lot more appeal because there's no other professional teams here. There's the Jackets and the Crew, but Ohio State reigns supreme in Ohio, let alone Columbus, and you bring that to a big city where they can sponsor help not pay them, but they support them. Hey, you come here, look at this car dealership that's going to maybe help you out. You can, if you're a starting quarterback. Oh man.
Well, think about your buddy Devere Posey coming over, or Terrell Pryor, or Boom Heron. We've Beanie and Boom podcast those rules.
We literally lost our
12-0
season.
Yeah.
We didn't get to go to a national championship because guys made money off their name, and now that's going to be a legal thing.
And people thought the sky was falling and college football was over.
No, let's go back and play it, baby.
I just keep thinking about the Sports Illustrated cover, how deep it went. They blew it up like it was the worst thing ever, and now it's like, whoa.
That was as
now
deep
they're
as
paying guys to do that.
Exactly. The other thing that Columbus, not only is Ohio State on top of the recruiting world, right? When we talk about it, it's probably, in my mind, from a recruiting standpoint, probably one of the top four, right? The big four is Oklahoma, Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, right? Not only does Ohio State reign supreme with that, think about the talent. In Alabama and Clemson, South Carolina, you don't have the headquarters of Wendy's. You don't have the headquarters of White Castle. You don't have Ohio Health, Mount Carmel. You don't have these massive, nationwide. You don't have these massive companies.
Columbus is
right
fifth in the world with Fortune 500 companies.
Right. So think about that, right? And you're not having that in Oklahoma, in Lincoln, or not Lincoln, but you know what I'm talking about, wherever Oklahoma is, right? Norman, right? Of those four, think about that. You take Columbus and you offer that to a recruit on top of the program that they're going into. It's a home run.
Well, the coaching staff already knows that too, because you see it's more prevalent to me with Keenan Bailey and Brian Hartline are just constantly tweeting, that Columbus video or a graphic. Come to Columbus, Ohio. They know what this city offers, and they know what it's going to offer these recruits when they're allowed to start making money.
It's the best college football town in America.
It is.
And you think of, like you were saying, Alabama, Oklahoma, you think of Notre Dame, all those big-time schools, they're at smaller, they're like college towns.
Yeah.
Well, our college town happened to be Columbus, Ohio, which is like the 12th biggest city in the country.
Right.
And there's no other professional teams that people really, truly are like super passionate about, like Ohio State. And that's just, I think, going to take Ohio State, at least in the Big Ten, to a level where no other teams can really touch it.
I mean, from a big-time college standpoint, you're really only looking from a big-time program. You're looking at two places that could maybe compete with Columbus, Ohio. You're looking at USC and Miami. Both of those programs are nowhere near where Ohio State is right now. But, you look at the top programs in the country, and all of them are small-town college towns, right? I mean, Austin is growing, but Austin doesn't have the Fortune 500, companies that Columbus has. Austin just has a lot to offer from a really cool town standpoint. But
Georgia,
it's Athens, right?
LSU,
But
those
small.
places have to lean on nearby cities. Like Alabama has to have Birmingham, Windham, but that's still nothing compared to Columbus. You have Atlanta just down the road from Athens, Georgia. That's fine. I mean,
but it's still an hour-and-a-half drive.
Yeah, USC's got that. I mean, I think that.
Are we going to be Flavortown, though? Is it going to be Flavortown, Ohio?
Boy, that's got to be a different show. I don't want to take part of that. The other thing those places don't have is Roosters, though. So that's going to be the tipping point just down the road from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center and the Horseshoe. Great to be back here again talking with these guys. It's been a while since we had Zach and Stoney with us for a Letterman Live to dig into some food and have a fun, casual talk about the Buckeyes. Spencer Holbrook down there at the end as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week right back here at Roosters in Columbus. Still the name of this city as long as we have something to say about it. We'll see.
Oh, gosh.
That's a vote for somebody else. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Letterman Live, we've got the practice report, we got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Boren.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.